And I have used it heavily in promotion, but the thing is, it was actually the use of the internet that led to the publishing deal in the first place, so I'm going to talk about that for a bit first as well. So I wrote my novel over the course of a couple of years. When I finished it and edited it, I decided to put it online and make it available for people to read and possibly have feedback on. The service I used was a website called Completely Novel, where you could read the book for free, and then it's a kind of every time you buy a copy, one gets printed, so there's no physical copies. And in a way, there's a social network for people who write books and people who read books, and that's what I was using it for. I was giving people feedback, and I was getting feedback on there. And I actually turned off the function of people buying because I thought it wasn't ready. And it was just a way of starting to get some of this feedback. And loads of the blogs that I scoured and books that I read about traditional methods of getting published told me about how you have to get an agent first, which is notoriously difficult, and how the agent gets you a publishing deal, which is notoriously difficult. And I bought the Writer's Handbook and sent out to agents and publishers, and undoubtedly it is still, I would say, the main method people go down to get published, but I did eventually give up, basically. So I was writing other things, I was working full time, I was starting a master's course, but in the background I was kind of rewriting and editing the novel in the hope that maybe if I sent it out to agents there was something wrong that was now right, you know. So, but eventually a small publishing company found the book on Completely Novel, which I had forgotten was even there, and they got in touch and through some kind of discourse eventually signed a publishing deal. So, I mean, as I say, that's not kind of the only way to get published now. That was kind of a very obscure way, and I think it's a way that only could have happened since the arrival of the internet. I mean, it's the equivalent of, before the internet, just leaving a manuscript on a park bench or something, just hoping that a publisher will find it. And it's kind of, there are these new roads to publishing emerging, and it was all done through a social network, albeit kind of, you know, a smaller one than Facebook and Twitter. But to get more to the promotion side of things, after I signed the deal, I had a deadline to get my final draft in. There were various other things going on with the publishers, but I decided quite early on that I would be the one to kind of take on the social media side myself. And I kind of did that without asking them really. And then later on I asked them retrospectively, and they kind of agreed that that was a good idea. So, but the biggest thing, and the biggest reason I wanted to do it myself was because through my, at the time I suppose, quite minimal use of social media, I knew that the most important thing was that it has to be personal, or that it's most effective when it's personal. I think that big businesses can use Twitter effectively and do use it effectively, but there's something, people like to interact with people they can relate to, I think, more than they like to interact with kind of faceless corporations or faceless companies. I suppose I'm part of this Facebook generation. I mean, my first year at university kind of coincided with the arrival of Facebook at universities, and it was kind of decided early on that you couldn't survive university without Facebook. It was where the events were, how you kind of stay in the loop, and for better or worse, it did kind of become integrated into our daily lives. So my first port of call was Facebook. I mean, I set up an event and a Facebook group that people would like, and kind of just invited all my friends. But that was, you know, the thing with Facebook is it is quite exclusive. You're only really friends with people you actually know. Whereas, you know, I follow plenty of people on Twitter, and I follow plenty of people on Twitter that we have no idea who each other are really. But I think that the biggest thing is that there might be strategies to how to use social media, but I think the biggest thing is to just be involved. And so I didn't have a strategy. I just kind of signed up to everything and just got involved with everything. So I was using Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Blog TV, which I can come on to later. So, and the thing is that I think there's a danger of being cynical about social media and thinking that you're signing up these things just to sell something. But I think people are quite discerning and they see through that. They can spot spam. They don't like spam on their Twitter feed, and they will follow you if all you're going to do is plug a book that's coming up. So you've got to be just conversing normally, just as a normal person. And then people are very forgiving when further down the line you ask them, you know, if they might buy your book because you've just been doing all this other stuff and you haven't been talking about your book, and then suddenly one tweet comes out. They might kind of be a bit more forgiving. And I mean, I was quite apologetic and almost anti-marketing in my marketing, which I think people want to. So it kind of ended up being quite effective. And so, as I've delved into this year that I could quite easily describe as a year on Twitter and YouTube, I didn't go in with the motive to gain followers or YouTube subscribers. I've just been involved. And it helps if you do other things online. I'm in the middle of this ridiculous project where I'm releasing one original song every day throughout 2011. It started on the first, I'm on day 277. And it's mainly on Tumblr, but it's integrated into my blog, and I have a YouTube channel and stuff, and they all feed off each other. So I have my book, and people might find this YouTube channel, and through it will end up finding my main website, which they're all kind of involved with. So there are loads of people on Twitter that have tens of thousands of followers, but they aren't selling anything, they're just funny, or they kind of put links to interesting articles or interesting websites, and then, as I say, when the time comes for them to sell something, people forgive them for it. So building up a following could be considered a strategy, but I never thought of it as a strategy, which is what I was trying to say. So an example would be John Green. I don't know if people have heard of the Vlogbrothers. He's basically a huge figure in YouTube. He's a YouTube celebrity, which is kind of a weird thing, but genuinely they're huge on YouTube. And they're these brothers that vlog to each other, and they now host the annual YouTube convention called VidCon. They sell merchandise successfully, and they get ad revenue on their videos. And that's all just from filming themselves, talking to a camera. And they're activists in many ways. They encourage people to give money to charity to decrease what they call world suck, which they're going to have to decrease. Before he got involved with YouTube, was an author, and he still is an author. He writes young adult fiction. And he basically built up this community of people, and his marketing campaign consisted of one YouTube video, pretty much. He just told people the release date. And his book went straight to the top of the Amazon pre-order charts in several countries. So his marketing campaign was filming himself in his house. And he actually got money for it because he gets AdSense on the people that watch. So there was no money going into his marketing. He got money for his marketing campaign. So it's just kind of flipped marketing on his head in many ways. So these are kind of big examples, but it kind of shows what social media can do. So when it came time to do mine, needless to say, it was a bit smaller than that, but I decided to at least do some of the things that he was doing and that other big authors that I saw were doing. And so I decided to do a giveaway on Twitter. I encourage people to use the hashtag Cold Fiction Release. And that was an entry to win a signed copy into a hat. And you could tweet it as many times as you like. Every time you tweet, it was another entry into the hat. And it ended up, I couldn't find a big enough hat, basically. It kind of grew out of all of these people that